For today's podcast, we have teamed up with Recover X. What is Recover X, I hear you say? Now, they are a smart cupping device. It's easy to use. It's designed to improve your muscle recovery. Now, cupping is an ancient therapy that increases blood flow, helps to loosen tight muscles and reduce inflammation. The devices they make are trusted by the top athletes competing high rocks to improve their recovery time so they can get ahead of the competition. Now, not only does it reduce pain and tightness, but it helps to improve flexibility and mobility. Now, if you're interested and you want to level up your recovery to help beat your personal records, the cupping massages are a convenient and cheap way of achieving this. If you're interested, head over to recoverx.com, which is recoverxx.com, and use the code that we have. That's 15% discount code with UKOCR 15 when you buy 2 or more devices. And trust me, you need to.
Welcome to the Swift Half, your weekly session of chat from the UKOCR and adventure running scene. Each week, pub landlord Alan and our favourite regular Ian discuss races, runners and anything else that comes to mind. So pull up a pew, pour yourself a drink and join us for the Swift Half.
You're listening to the 666th most popular podcast for people who think that mental fatigue is caused by listening to Iron Maiden at too high a volume.
Ian, my friend, welcome to Swift Half again. How are you?
I'm good, Alan, and happy mid-April.
Isn't time flying? That's Easter gone now. What we got next? May Day bank holiday?
We've got 3 bank holidays in May, mate.
We've got the King's Coronation.
We do, yeah. King's Coronation is the middle one. You've got May Day, which is when you all panic. And then you've got one right at the end, which I presume is London High Rocks Day and Spartan Day.
Yeah, 30th of April. What is it? Is it both High Rocks and Spartan on that date?
Not on that date, but on that weekend, you've got Spartan Saturday, Sunday, Sunday, Monday.
Yeah, High Rocks Sunday, Monday, because we talked about that the other week, didn't we? Bank holiday Mondays. Shocking. There should be days of rest.
They absolutely. Days of rest and watching James Bond.
Love a good James Bond film, me. I want Idris Elba to be the next James Bond.
You know what? I agree with that take. I'd happily have Idris Elba as the next James Bond. But one day, they're going to have to just make it clear that James Bond is like a code name and all these people are different people, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, yes, you're right. Because he can't have been living for must be 100 years old now.
Presumably, yeah. And apparently you only live once or twice, is it?
Twice. Oh, living twice. Let's talk about living. What are you drinking tonight?
Well, Alan, this has become a semi-regular feature, hasn't it? In that I'm getting through my 12 beers of Christmas.
Yes.
And we're on to number 3. We're on to number 3, listener. Only another 9 to go. Do you remember I said, well, firstly, I'll tell you what I'm drinking. I'm drinking Planet Pale.
All right. That's what Planet Pale, that's where they plant a tree, isn't it, for every time you buy a Planet drink?
I believe so. And do you remember a few weeks ago, I mentioned that Lost Lager wasn't my favourite brew dog, and that's why I drank it first?
Yes.
I've just found out that Planet Pale is my least favourite brew dog because this is the first time I've ever had one, and yeah, it just doesn't taste nice. Is this a way of Brewdog saving money on planting trees?
Make them taste awful.
Yeah, so no one buys this one. Whereas if you planted a tree for every Hazy Jane or every Elvis juice, the entire UK would be covered in trees.
But that would be good. We would need that. Plant a tree for every Elvis juice. I would buy more Elvis juice. I'd go very much green.
Yeah. And actually, Alan, I wandered in. Can we talk about horse racing briefly?
Yeah, go on, yeah. Grand National at the weekend it was?
It was, and honestly, whatever your views on it are your views. I will not say either way. But we wandered into a Wetherspoons just because we were killing time, and we had the National on.
Yeah.
And Alan, I saw it. They did have Elvis juice in the cabinet behind it, and I was severely tempted to get an Elvis juice, and then I realised I had stuff to do, so I settled for some kind of West Coast IPA.
So what has that got to do with horse racing? Just because it was on in the pub when you went in?
Yeah, it was just on the pub when we went in.
Classic.
And we watched it there. We did watch it.
Yeah. A lot of people trying to break into the stadium, wasn't there? And not the stadium, the course, which it held it a little bit.
It was, and we have to be careful how we deal with this, because it is one of those issues that some people are going to get annoyed at. Some people, either way, you either hate horse racing or you hate the people who try to break in. So I'm going to stay completely on the fence. I've not jumped over it.
On the fence. I like that. On the
there
fence.
We go. Not jumped over it. And we'll move on. So, Alan, what are you drinking?
Well, I'm on Brewdog today. So my friend brought this into work for me today. So he went to Asda last night. And do you ever go down the aisle where they have everything with the yellow stickers on?
I do. I think, Alan, don't forget, I live north of Manchester. I think my entire Asda is full of yellow stickers.
Well, whenever you go down the yellow sticker aisle, they don't have beer on it. Or if they do, it's just one can of something really weird and strange. Last night, my mate David went to Asda. He spent nearly £100 on yellow sticker beer. All Brewdog. The whole of Brewdog was on sale. So he actually brought me one in today, a Hazy Jane Guava. I'm going to open it live because I haven't tasted the Hazy Jane Guava. I've tasted Guava, but not the Hazy Jane one. That is nice. I like that. Fruity, refreshing, and 5%.
It is. And is that a big can, or has your hand shrunk?
No, this is a big can as well. Yeah, they were all big cans.
Because I've got one in the...
Is it Rattle and Rum? Was another one? A Rattle and Rum?
Oh, that's a new one, or one that you don't see a lot. I went into Sainsbury's over the weekend because I've been running more, as you know, gradually running more. And my favourite trick is I'll run into the local town from here and then catch the Metro link back. And there's Sainsbury's there. So I ran there to get my dinner because I'm lazy on a weekend. And they had all these Brewdogs I'd never seen before, like Rattle and Rum. Like there was a pina colada one as well. And I was severely, severely tempted. And then I realised we've still got 3 shelves in the fridge full of beer.
Tell me you live up north without telling me you live up north.
Yeah. We have 2 fridges, and one is, you've seen it, we've posted a picture up, and it's not improved much since that picture. So enough about my beer fridge, Alan. In the north, I noticed something about sleep.
Yeah, well, last week we had Will on, and you mentioned about coffee, drinking at 8 o'clock at night and not being able to sleep. Well, James Burton dropped me a link to a podcast. So I don't even know who this podcast was by now, but I'm going to tell you about the podcast. So on Sunday, when I went for my run, my plan was to go out for like 10 to 15 miles. Wasn't sure how long. Try and run for about 2.5, 3 hours was my aim. And I put this podcast on about sleep. It was fascinating, Ian. Did you know when you see all these like birds on a line, an electricity line or a telegraph line, and they're all on there and they're all still. Everyone in the middle's asleep apart from the outside 2, and they sleep with one eye open. So the one on the far right will sleep with his right eye open so he can see anything coming from the right, and the one on the left sleeps with his left eye open so he can see if anything comes on the left. It's in case of predators. Fascinating fact.
Is that a bit like at World's Toughest Mudder when you see runners running together in big groups? The middle ones are probably asleep, and ones on the outside have their one eye open.
How good would it be if we could actually do that?
I was saying that when I've done Toughest Mudder and done pit crew or done media, there have been a few times where I've been asleep with my eyes open. I swear. I remember one time, the first time we did media, and you brought your tent. Yep. I remember just sitting there, and I'd never closed my eyes, but then I checked my phone again, and I'd lost half an hour.
That's me as well. But we talked about the coffee side. So this guy, he actually promotes drinking coffee, not caffeine, but promotes drinking coffee because it's healthy for you. It releases something in your body that helps you relax and helps you rest, and that. But with the caffeine side, does keep you awake. If you have decaf, it does help your body. It was really interesting, Ian. If you're going for a long run You've got 2 hours to spare. Anyone's got 2 hours to spare. I will post it up in our group, I think, in our Facebook group on Friday, on our UKOCR Facebook group. So anyone who wants to listen to it, because it is fascinating.
Was it Diary of a CEO? Was that the one that it was on?
It was, yeah. Shall I find it now? We can tell everyone.
Yeah, I think it was Diary of CEO. I love that because do you know how, while you're finding this, I'll fill the air. See, listener, almost flawless. But do you know how at the end of our podcast, we have a certain way of finishing it? Like on this one, we do, it's goodbye from me, it's goodbye from you, Alan. On the fitness racing, I always say goodbye, listener, and speak to you all soon. You've got one for the UKOCR Monday show, which I think is just goodbye, or words to that effect.
Yep.
Yeah, have I got it right?
You have.
And his is the best one I've ever heard.
I haven't got that far because I never got to the end of it. What does it say?
Did you fall asleep?
Actually, it's some of these parts in this podcast. It's quite a long one. I was running and sleeping at the same time, I think.
But what he says at the end is, I hope nobody's listening, but if you are, please keep it to yourself.
Oh, I like that. That's pretty cool.
And of course, it's almost like reverse psychology. So it is a genius move.
Yeah. It was Diary of CEO, and it was episode 228 with Matthew Walker, the world's #1 sleep expert. It were good.
Well, I'll give it a listen. I do like Diary of CEO. It is one of them podcasts that is worth a listen, Alan.
Ian, we've got a guest. That was the door opening.
It was, Alan. Welcome to the show, Giles from Tough Mudder HQ.
Hi, gentlemen. Thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me in.
You're welcome. I hope you brought a drink with you because, as you know, this is the pub. We all drink in the pub.
I'm drinking a postmodern classic, courtesy of Brewdog, as you would imagine.
Which one is it? Is it the punk or is it the...
It's the punk. It's the punk IPA. Full disclosure, they did send it to me for free, so thank them very much.
I like that. We're fans of that.
Alan, I was going to say, does that make top trumps, by the way? Because is this the first time we've had 3 people on the show drinking Brewdog?
Oh, yeah, it is. Planet Ale, Hazy Jane, and Giles with Punk. Oh,
man, Hazy Jane, that's a strong evening you've got ahead. That's...
You missed it earlier because I got it. A friend bought it me today from Asda on one of the yellow tickets, so it was only £1.25 instead of £3. So it's a bargain.
Nice.
I think
we're really pleased to be enjoying the old Lost Lager on site. They are very generous with us back in the office, which is wonderful, and good to have them back on the event sites as well.
Yeah, we're a big fan of course. I think we were joking, Alan, that Brewdog makes up possibly about at least 70% of my beer consumption on this show, even the alcohol-free stuff. And for you, it's getting close to that as well.
Yeah, it's at least 50% of mine. I like the Brewdogs. What was it like down at... Did you go down to the pub on the pop-up pub on Friday, Giles, that was down at Finsbury?
Alas, I did not. No, I was still chained to my desk. I did think, looking at the weather forecast, maybe Wednesday, Thursday, I was like, should we pop up on Saturday night when the sun is supposed to be out? They were pretty committed.
That was a great idea. And from what we hear, because we've got a lot of Tough Mudder fans of the show, we hear that despite the weather, people had an absolutely fantastic time, other than having their first view of electroshock therapy, which scared quite a few people.
That was wonderful. That was wonderful. I spent a little bit of time at Electric Eel as well, which is my personal not favorite, whatever the appropriate phrase for that is. It was wonderful.
My favorite Electric Eel was, I think it was either Scotland or Yorkshire a couple of years ago. And what happened is, unfortunately, the battery had run out by the time I got there, or whatever operation it was. So I knew it wasn't working, but I pantomimed my entire way through it to scare a load of new mudders behind. And they then went through it and didn't make a single sound and thought that they were much tougher than I was.
Yeah, very good. I was wondering where that story was going to go. I don't think I've ever had anybody start a sentence with my favorite Electric Eel before. Yes.
I'm not a fan of electric obstacles, and when I saw the video, the air release of the video that came out on Friday of extra wires, plus you was running through water, I was saying thank God I am not going down to Finsbury this weekend.
You did miss out though. It was epic.
And so I see. Huge crowd down there. Must be pleased for the first Tough Mudder of the season to see that amount of people out.
Yeah, very good. Obviously pleased from a numbers perspective. That was great. Really pleased from the noise that was generating the reception. And then I think partway through last year, as I kind of took the helm, I was talking about the fact that I wanted to make things tougher again. And whilst we made some progress last year, there was an awful lot going on, and we weren't able to make quite as much progress as I'd hoped. And we started this year with a much bigger step in the direction I would like to go. So it was great to see that kind of difficulty ratchet up. And then as I came onto site on Saturday morning, you see these mudders leaving proudly wearing their headband, really, not like just tucked into the bag as they sneak back on the tube, but well and truly there, like, I've just done this and I'm really pleased with myself, and I want everyone to recognize what I've achieved. It's just awesome to see. So yeah, it was good start.
Good to see that. I saw the video of Everest, and it was good to see the crowds back on the top helping people up, because that is what I remember of my first ever Tough Mudder. It being so hard to get up Everest, the actual get to the top and then the leap to get to the ledge, and people grabbing you and lifting you up. And that's, for me, that's been missing for a few years. Glad to see it's back. Really got to say, I am so glad that camaraderie, yeah, I can never get that word right, of everyone helping each other, and that ethos of get everyone across it. I love it. And
that, obviously, that's where it started, right? It was so impactful and it connected with so many people. And as a business, we wanted that feeling for everybody, as you will. And so I think we made changes over the years that came from a really good place, came from our desire to make everything more inclusive, more approachable. But actually, in some ways, we just ended up making it easier. And that didn't actually end, it didn't get us to where we wanted to be. And it isn't necessarily a requirement to make things easier. You don't need to be easier to be inclusive. You just look at, some of the remarkable achievements that we see, across the field. And I think we can continue to be that really welcoming environment whilst maintaining that difficulty standard across the suite of events and obstacles.
No, I would agree with that. The only one that, because we talked about you making things difficult, the only thing I'm going to miss is the platform on Pyramid Scheme, and in fact the water at Pyramid Scheme. I used to love, and it was pre-COVID, and possibly the last year under the old guard when Pyramid Scheme was the final obstacle. I used to love that in the water, helping everyone up. And it actually felt harder back then, even with the ledge, than it has the last few years without a ledge.
Yeah, I think that all of these things come out of iteration, and invariably we end up somewhere we maybe didn't intend to be. The ledge first became a thing in Germany to help with processing. It wasn't a design thing so much as we can't really build this any bigger, and we're starting to see queues. And then if you come at these things from an operational perspective, a number one priority is maybe making the ops team's life easy, or helping the course crew, or helping manage processing. Then you start to put ledges all over the place. You start to make sure that it's not going to be muddy or other stuff, and that fundamentally changes the nature of the obstacle. I think we'll continue to tweak it. I don't think putting the ledge back is the answer. It's pretty challenging right now, which is ideal. We need to make sure that challenge stays in the sweet spot. Now, I think another example, I was chatting to some people about this a couple of days ago, is Arctic enema. And we think particularly Arctic enema started, you just dug a hole in the ground, fill it with water, throw some ice in. The ground naturally keeps a lot of heat. So the ice was just melting. You had to put way too much ice in to maintain the temperature. So then we built it above ground in large skips, which maintained the temperature in the ice much better. The issue, though, in the US is you then got to ship this massive skip over huge distances, which became prohibitive, whereas in the UK, we don't have to move it so much. So the US moved away from skips. We kept the skips in the UK. But if you're operating on a skip, it makes the water safety element so much more challenging than if you're just operating at ground level where you can easily reach in. So then we found we're having to build platforms around the skip. And this was all becoming quite an operation. It then turns out if you bring the water temperature up from kind of the 2-3 degrees it was to above 7 degrees, it significantly reduces the volume of people who are freaking out when they hit the ice, and you reduce the rescue side of things, which means you then don't need to mess about with platforming as much. You then come back into the old issue with processing again. If people are just climbing in like they started, you do the thing we've all done at the beach, right? Where you get your toes in, you're like, and then back out, right? And then your knees, and you're like, oh, I'm okay now. And then you look down, and you're like, oh, that bit's got to go in. You're like, oh, and then this takes ages, right? Which is why we built the slide. Because what you find with a slide is people are committed to going in before they're actually anywhere near the ice. And so we're able to run people through quite quickly. And then we added a whole bunch of design elements around the slide itself. And all of a sudden, you fast forward 5-6 years of Arctic Enema iteration, and it's become a slide into cold water as opposed to a submersion in freezing water, just through a series of well-intentioned design changes. And I think we need to get back to the fundamental principle, which is like, are we getting submerged in actual ice, which is part of what's been missing there. And for me, it's that just understanding the journey we ended on and making sure we don't lose sight of where we started. That's a big part of what we're going to do this year.
I do love Arctic Enema, and there are two things that I do love. One that you don't do anymore. If you remember the Tougher series for a time in America, I don't think we ever did it in the UK, you would do a ice bag carry to Arctic Enema, and you would throw your own ice down the slide and had to follow it in. I always thought that was unique, but operationally I could see that, particularly with processing, not really working. The other thing, which is something that the UK guys do really, really well because they're sadistic and it's often the same people on Arctic Enema, is having the ice underneath the duck under. So you duck under and then you're coming up into the ice, which presumably is a bit safer because you've already got through the hard bit, you've just got stairs there, and the water safety guys can pull you out.
So on the first piece, I absolutely do remember that. Anybody who's, if you remember Guy and Miranda, who put massive hours of their lives into Arctic Enema, you imagine how many bags of ice they carried over their stints. But the idea of getting the participants to carry all the ice in is the volunteer's dream, I imagine. That phenomenon with the ice pooling on the kind of the one side of the baffle is actually about just the water flow. As people duck, they end up carrying most of the ice out, and then it gets trapped in that second section. So I would call that luck rather than judgment. But you're right, it's great for the photo. Pretty good for the experience too.
I like that. I can see that now at ETM this year, carrying bags of ice here. And thanks for putting that thought into Giles's head again. He will have forgot all about that. But now ETM, watch out. And if it's right, Ian, you're getting the blame.
It's fine. I believe I'm somewhere sunny again for ETM. I've unfortunately missed last year because I was in Spain doing one of your sister company events. I was doing a Deca in Spain last year, Giles, and there's a good chance I might be doing that again this year. I sent Alan a lovely picture of me bracing the ice of a rooftop pool on ETM last year, and he was ever so nice. You should have seen the expletives I got back.
I can certainly imagine. Well, Anne Helen, the team out in Spain, are doing a great job with Deca this year, so some growth. And you are right. ETM, in fact, all of our events this year are going to be held in really nice warm weather. It's going to be great.
I know at least one is in Manchester. I live in Manchester. We've had summer. It was sunny today.
I'm flying out to Atlanta tomorrow, actually. I'm going to be at the Atlanta event in the US, and it's the most Tough Mudder weather forecast I have seen in a little while. It's basically bright sun, high 20s, Celsius, not Fahrenheit, Monday to Friday, and then it's raining on Saturday and Sunday, and then it's glorious again from Monday through the week. I was like, classic.
Oh,
perfect race weekend.
It is perfect. And what makes it even better, Alan, is we know our good friend Matt should be there, and so he'll have a lot of fun in the English weather.
He likes the English weather. Now he's been over here. He loves the English weather. Now
he likes English things. He loved Yorkshire last year. 4 seasons in a day. 4 seasons in a day. Giles, I think as well as Finsbury, we've got you on to talk a little bit about the endurance series because there is some massive news, isn't there?
I mean, we find out in email. Does that count as massive news?
Well, it does, because there has been a few changes. I'm going to go in straight away with a positive. Well, they're all positive news because all change is always positive.
And everybody loves all positive change as well. That's the other, reality of life.
That is true. The internet always reacts calmly every time you send an email out, irrespective of what it says. The internet acts calmly. But what I want to chat about initially is the rules and this new way of doing penalties, because it might be a little bit different for people who've traditionally done toughest. And is this also applying for Infinity as well?
The new rules are actually for Infinity rather than for toughest. We were really pleased with how Infinity rolled out last year, but we had a couple of consistent kind of challenges that we needed to work through in the off season. One, with the 7:30 start at the time, we were struggling to get people checked in, settled in their pit and ready to go. So, we missed the start time on a number of occasions. So that was an issue. We had an issue with the cutoff, where you couldn't do 15K anymore, was tied to where the splits were on course. And that split wasn't necessarily, whilst the time that you got cut off was consistent, the split wasn't necessarily in the same place, the same distance in. And in some courses, there were multiple splits. And that's obviously driven by the nature of the venue, but that also made for a number of kind of friction points. So we've changed both of those. We pushed the starts back a little bit, and we have changed the way we run the cutoff. So it's now going to be when you start your lap. So both of those should help. And then the other thing we were seeing was just challenges with officiating. There's a lot going on. We're obviously running this alongside busy weekends, as it were, and either, we weren't able to make penalties all that interesting, and we weren't able to consistently officiate them in the way that we would like. And how we're going to deal with that this year is we're going to have fewer obstacles that have penalties, or put in differently, we're going to have more mandatory obstacles. It's only really going to be the obvious pass-fail obstacles. Take Funky Monkey, right? You either fall in the water or you don't. That's pretty easy to identify pass-fail. It's going to be the real pass-fail ones like that are genuine penalty obstacles. Everything else, the expectation is that it becomes mandatory. And you will start each lap with a number of wristbands that correspond to the amount of kind of pass-fail obstacles that are there. And anytime you fail, the volunteer is just going to have that wristband off you, and on you go. So that means we don't need to staff up out in course. We don't need to educate people on the officiating piece. We have a little bit more flexibility if we have issues with volunteer numbers or any other challenges that happen. You'll just lose wristbands as you go around, and when you present back to the kind of race center, you will need to top up your wristbands to the full amount before you go out to your next lap, and you do that by completing obstacles. That race center is near the pit, so it means a couple of things. One, we can make for more interesting obstacles. We are going to make for more interesting obstacles, but I meant penalties. We can be a little bit more interesting in the penalties. We don't just have to smash burpees out all afternoon. It means that those penalties can be officiated by the team who are running the race center. And we're also going to put dedicated race directors there, because we had some issues with kind of rule interpretation, just training of, the teams on the ground. It also means that the rest of the people who are in the pit chilling out are going to be able to bear witness, enjoy the joys of their fellow racers taking on the weird and wonderful penalties. So that should make for an interesting atmosphere all around. So we're quite excited. Like any change, I think some other people are excited. Some people have lost their mind, and we'll just have to see how it plays out.
It sounds interesting. Sorry, Ian. It sounds interesting. So what we're saying, right, is that Infinity is now more of a race than what it was last year. Are we saying that?
We're still not going to have, a podium.
Yeah.
But we're obviously driving. People are driving for the personal distance. We've increased the distance achievement awards. You can get up to 80K. It capped off at 60K last year, and we're putting the new fancy belt buckle in at 80K. So giving people real motivation. But no, this is less about. It's obviously, you are competing with yourself. You're pushing in a race environment to maximize the mileage you can get, rather than directly racing against other people. But we want to make sure that the quality of the experience, and particularly the kind of officiating and the management of the rules, is at the same standard as you would get in any of our races or races elsewhere.
I've got a couple of questions about obstacles. I suspect you're currently in plan, so if you can't actually talk anything in particular. That's fine, Giles. We completely understand. One is, I suspect that some of the obstacles which will be pass fail are obvious. You've got your funky monkey, you've got your gauntlet, those kind of things. In terms of some obstacles which are kind of on that cusp of some people can do them fine, some can't. I'm thinking things like Everest, maybe Pyramid Scheme, maybe some walls to some degree, but I think walls will probably be mandatory. But have you given any thought on which side of the fence or the wall you're going to come down on those particular obstacles?
Yeah, we have. Everest is going to be mandatory.
Okay. Fair enough. Right, so that's me not doing Infinity ever because I've still never got up there. But anyway,
we'll make some adjustments. People manage to get up Everest at Worlds, the toughest. There are a lot of other people around to help you. Even though that there is this kind of endurance and competitive element to this, just the way Tough Mudder events are run, even the competitive events, there are invariably people there to help you out. We are not as worried about that as you seem to be. Yeah, Alan will run with you. It'd be fine. He'll help you out.
Me and Everest have issues, shall we say? We don't get on. We never have. But I'm not going to scare the listener with that story. The other question I've got, which might be linked to my Everest page, can you use these like carabiners? So if there is a particular obstacle which isn't a pass-fail, I'm looking at you, Devil's Beard, could you lose a band and then just do a penalty at the end?
Not at the moment. We'll see how that plays out. The issue with that approach is you need to be carrying enough bands to, just deal with that all the way around.
If you run out of bands, you're DQ'd. It's as simple as that.
Yes. You could do that. That would be awkward. It's certainly
that would be awkward, yes.
We're obviously straying close to some of the penalty systems that are used elsewhere in OCR racing, and Ian Adamson and World Obstacle have been using the 3 wristband system for quite some time, and so what you describe is, I think, fairly well known. We're trying to continue to bridge, I think, your elite racer, where the argument is, well, you shouldn't fail any obstacles, so what's the point, right? And people where we recognize that they're going to go out and put a really big effort in for themselves, and it's going to be quite an accomplishment, and we want to have a system in place that facilitates that too. We don't really want people running out of bands and getting disqualified.
Oh well, I get that completely, because I'm a fan of people completing obstacles. So I love to see people completing obstacles, however hard it is or however easy it is for other people. If you can complete a 6-foot wall and you've never done it before, that euphoria you get from doing it is absolutely massive. And to the elite racers, a 6-foot wall is, it's so easy. It's like just climbing a 2-foot wall. But for other people, it's not. So I like that whole idea of completion, and I wouldn't want anyone to be DQ'd. I hate it when people are DQ'd. It's like reward people for being out there, and I like the whole idea. Enough bans, people go around. If you finish with none, then you're going to get 5 or 6 penalties. If you finish with 4, you'll get 1 penalty or whatever it is. Depending on how many bans you get. So I do like that, Ian, that you've got to take some mandatory ones. That
euphoria, I think, is something we're giving a lot of thought to in our obstacle design at the moment. It's really easy, relatively easy to make stuff physically challenging. That can just be savage upper body grip strength obstacles. I think about the banana grips on World's Toughest Mudder, which were probably at the steep end of physical difficulty, or stuff that's just really energy sapping, really long thick mud pits, really long devil's beards. But one of the things I think that made Tough Mudder, if you think all the way back to early years, really quite exhausting but really mentally satisfying at the end, was that anxiety that you had. If you were in a really narrow trench and you were worried you were going to get stuck and you didn't know when it was going to finish, there's just an anxiety there. If you're worried about what's coming up next, if you're feeling like you're genuinely up high or exposed, all of those things are mentally exhausting as well. And I think that's the component on top of the physical difficulty that's really important that we restore.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and yeah, my misgivings about a certain obstacle with an E. Yeah, I do think it is a great idea, and yeah, I think yeah, you don't want to get people DQ'd, nor do you want a lot of volunteers who, because presumably you're not coming to Tough Mudder with 3 million bands, so you're going to have to be retrieving these from your volunteers at some point during the day. So if it could be spread out across the obstacles, it's probably not the best idea.
Yeah, and look, we know certainly across OCR, but across the entire event industry, post-COVID, volunteer numbers have been severely decimated, and they're all needing to get rebuilt. And so there's a challenge securing volunteers. There's a challenge securing good volunteers. And so we're so grateful for those good volunteers that we do continue to benefit from. But that means we need to be really thoughtful in where they are deployed over, event weekends. I think back to 2014, where we had so many volunteers. You'd put volunteers out on like cheering stations to just clap at people as they came past. And that means a design that isn't going to only work if you have volunteers, because what do you do if they don't turn up?
Perfect. Don't put anyone on Everest, and it's fine. Then no one can take my band. But anyway, sorry, Giles. I'm going to move off that. Could we talk about World's Toughest Mudder a little bit, if that's okay?
I mean, what if I say no? Do we just all like awkwardly sit here and sip our beers for a bit?
Yeah, actually, no, don't worry. We've got notes. We can talk about some fitness racing if you want. There's a new affiliate.
We can talk about Worlds. What's up?
Well, firstly, I understand a little birdie whose name is Alan, because he read the press release as opposed to me. You are bringing Worlds to the UK in a teeny tiny way, aren't you? Please, Alan, do not cut that particular bit. Do not do some fancy editing. In that, we've got a invasion of World's obstacles coming, haven't we?
I like where that ended. I was having this. What did we send out? What did we promise? Yes, the idea here is that we will take a number of the iterations we made to obstacles at Worlds this year, and through the first half of the year, we'll bring those either in their entirety or elements of those to courses, across the US and the UK. As we move into the second half of the year, we'd like to kind of pivot, same idea, but we will start to bring components of what we're thinking about for Worlds this year, that we will start to try out, probably not in their entirety just because of the difficulty, and we don't want to create too much chaos on site. But you will start to get a sense of some of what we have in mind over the kind of back half of the season, which should be fun. And then obviously we'll have Worlds itself, and we'd love to do something similar again next year.
I like that, Ian. I like that. I like the pivot there. So we're going to get to see some of Worlds 2022 in early 2023, and then late 2023, we're going to see some of 2023 WTM obstacles in maybe a different form, but as a preview. I like
right, that. Exactly. That's the plan. Yes.
I'm excited now. Ian, I'm cancelling my 100 miler to do Infinity Yorkshire.
Good idea. Well, when we chatted about this, Alan, I said the one WTM obstacle that I want you to be able to do is Kochi's box,
which is the dance crazy thing.
The dance crazy one. So, Giles, I don't know if that's currently on the plans, but you can figure it out so that Alan can get his rave on. We would appreciate it forever.
It feels like we should be able to figure it out. I've wanted the team to do something similar to that for a while. The issue's getting like blacked out tents. It's got to be dark. It doesn't work as well in the middle of the day, but if we can create that darkness inside, and then I think we probably need to be a little bit more offensive with the noise and the flashing lights and the smoke and the other stuff. But I just love variety of obstacles and anything that creates sensory overload. Yeah, otherwise, an obstacle course can just become an afternoon of either crawling or climbing, both of which are fun, but I feel like we can be better than that.
Yeah. I say to Ian on a regular basis that one of my first obstacle course races was a little one in Sheffield called Endura, which was built on the side of a mountain, and you came down to the finish line, and I saw the finish line about a mile away, and I was running on flat ground, And I saw the finish line, I saw the banner, and I was like, yes, I'm sprinting this as fast as I can. And 30 feet before the finish line, the course turned right and went back up the hill before it came. And that messed with my mind so much. And I still remember it now, which is 14 years later, and it's still there. It's things that play with your mind, to me, are much more interesting than something physical.
I agree.
It's remarkable you say that. So we plan to roll out the extra mile, or a version of the extra mile, on Tough Mudder courses. A very similar concept, except worse is it's an obstacle. So like all obstacles on a Tough Mudder course, you can just choose not to do it if you're so inclined. So you will have to be there at the finish line. No, you can just, skip the obstacle and cruise in to get shocked. Or, turn around and run away with no idea how much further you'll be going before you come back. And there are a couple of other elements to it you'll see as we roll it out. But I agree with you, right? That's the absolute perfect test. And I think for a lot of people, right, we've got some tough-minded people here. They're going to choose to do it. And we'll feel pretty good for it.
I love that idea. It's almost like a updated version of the Legionnaires obstacle, in that it's not exclusive. You can do it, but it's very much, it will probably be people who are coming back for the second or third who do it. That's a great idea.
Yeah, love it. I love it.
And Alan's going, I wish I'd said nothing. We were going to do it anyway.
I am going to do it. It will be me. That'll be me. I know it will. I just know that would be, oh, look, we've got extra mileage in here. I'm a fan of the old school when Tough Mudder used to say, oh, it's about 10 miles and it'd rock up at 13. And, that was old school OCR. No one ever measured anything. We just used to say, yeah, it'd be about 10 miles and it ended up being whatever it was, but it was never less. It was always more. I love that. That's me. Maybe
we should connect again partway through the season.
Yeah.
To see whether he still does. You know what I love, Alan, and you kind of hinted it there. I love the signage. I've always loved the signage. The one that I thought about when you said that was at the 3 mile part, where it said, if this was a Spartan, you'd be done by now. And, back in the day. And now, of course, you've updated that to saying, oh, this was awkward. So, yeah, I don't know who comes up with them signs, Giles, but you don't pay them enough. I love the signs.
I hope they don't listen to your podcast. It's a team effort. I had something through from the team, which you'll see around the coronation earlier, that just came from someone you wouldn't expect. That's absolute gold. So, we just try and encourage that culture, the kind of irreverence, and we want to empower the team to be even more creative than they have been allowed to be over the last couple of years. And from a course design perspective, it should be fun.
It's great. I'm going to take a left turn here because there was something that a few listeners were asking about that we better cover, because I'm aware that we've taken up almost half an hour of your time, Giles. I'm not sure how much longer you can go before the bouncer gets you, and or you have to go back to your family. In terms of WTM, last year saw the return of prize money. What is it looking like for this year?
It's still a TBC. I was actually asked that question on the WTM forums, and I answered that. We have what I would say is the money, right? We have the money in the budget. And the easiest thing to do would be to just continue to roll out prizing. That's almost the status quo. And that's certainly open to us. There are a lot of really strong arguments for having prize money, around credibility and sport narrative, and all of those elements. There are also a number of really strong arguments for taking that kind of pocket of the budget and deploying it elsewhere. And I just want to make sure as a team, we work through that as thoroughly as we can. Even internally, right, we have people championing both of those options. And I want to let that play out. At this point, I think saying, yeah, there's definitely pricing or there definitely isn't is not going to have a material impact on sign-ups. So I feel like we can afford to take a little bit more time, not too long. Some people fairly rightly have challenged, the changes we made this week, given the proximity to the season. So we won't take too long. But I do want to make sure that we deploy the budget in the best possible way to impact the event holistically in the best way possible.
But speaking of prizes, that actually gets us nicely to you have overhauled the contender status this year.
We have. And that's another one where, that didn't necessarily used to be a contender status. You think all the way back where we 2013 when, an unknown Ryan Atkins just comes in and wins it out of nowhere. We feel, and Chris himself has done really well as a world's toughest contender himself, and a really quality athlete. And, as we chatted through this, we think the best performance on the day should win. And so that is one of the design elements. There's another point where the way the current system is set up, it doesn't really support or reward people who are participating in the endurance series. What we end up with is a whole bunch of people who, don't necessarily turn up at Infinity or Toughest, just send us really long emails about why they deserve all the exemptions that exist to their contender status to get in anyway. And by making the kind of changes we have to the contender system, and that change, as I'm sure, people have read, anybody is now eligible to get on the podium and prizing. We're just going to run the leaderboard as one inclusive leaderboard, regardless of what category you're in. So if you're an elite contender, a contender, you're open, you can win it or not. So that means people don't need to get the status. In getting the status, you get the cool bib, that visibility and the status element itself. On course, you get early access to pit selection, which can help you get in the start of the start shoot as well, which is nice. None of which I think are fundamentally make or break, but they're all, nice to have, and there's a degree of status in there. But you've got to earn it within the endurance series. And I think I'm certainly not all that apologetic about, supporting our series and the design of our series and rewarding those people who participate in it.
And Alan, I've actually got it here. If should we quickly run through it, because we are a news show primarily. So
pub news, the best kind of news.
Yep, yes. Exactly. Best kind of news. But if you want to be a contender in Tough Mudder Infinity, females 40k, males 45k, Masters female 35k, Masters male 40k. Giles, can I just check? Is that the Spartan version of Masters as well, and the World Obstacle version, so 40 plus?
Oh, that's awkward. I don't actually know.
I'm sorry, Giles.
But I know a guy who will be able to answer that for
cool.
me.
We'll put that in at some point. The reason being is it's close to my heart because this year is when, if you are using that, I will hit that because of the way it works out. So
yeah, I feel like it might be 50, and that's a contentious point as opposed to 40. But I would need to follow up.
No, that's fine. See, we got almost half an hour in before giving you a question you didn't know the answer to. I think that's quite good. Anyway. So that is.
I feel like I should do the more political thing here and just blag it.
No, we don't need any more politicians in the world. We really don't. But elite contender, so getting you access to the better pit space for that. That is female 65k, male 70k at Tough Mudder Infinity. At Toughest Mudder, a contender is, because you've got more time, female 50k, male 60k. Masters female is 40k, Masters male is 50k. An elite contender, female 70k, male 90k. And while we're talking about Toughest Mudder, Alan, I am really jealous of you. I know you're going to be jealous of me not freezing in the Midlands, but I am jealous of you doing Toughest Mudder because the exclusive Toughest Mudder t-shirts are back, and I love the Toughest Mudder t-shirts.
I know. And I'm going 50k this year as well, Ian. So I knew what the contender it was for my age.
You might not be a Masters. We're not sure. It could be 70 plus.
Ian, it's not. It's got to be over 50, and I'm definitely over 50. Don't go telling me none of this 70 malarkey.
80 plus. We don't know.
Masters is going to become like pensions, Alan. It's just going to creep up a couple of years every year. Sorry,
I've set my distance at 60, so I'm going for 60 at ETM this year. So all my training this year leads to a 100 miler, which is actually 1 month after ETM, so I've had to factor ETM in the training plan. So I've got 60k in me without a doubt.
Nice. I will be there, so I'll see you there. Those numbers you just read out, they were a slight change. We pushed the Infinity numbers up by roughly 5k. We looked at, if the idea of achieving the contender status is really about being in contention, we looked at what that meant, what kind of mileage you'd have to do at Worlds to really be in contention. We looked at, the time that was available between, Infinity, and so, what that meant for kilometers an hour, similar for toughest, as well as take into account daytime versus nighttime, number of obstacles per lap, and all that kind of stuff. And we felt on the whole that the Infinity was a more achievable route through and was generally slightly easier. And we've tried to rebalance. One of the challenges, obviously, in the rebalancing is you've got to go up in 5k increments. And so, that means that in some categories, the proportional movement is a bit bigger than in others. We've done our best to try and keep it as balanced as practical.
Alan, can I ask another question?
Go on, you can for me.
This wasn't
answer it this time.
Yeah, well, this wasn't actually on our notes, but our good friend Matt B mentioned it to me the other weekend. Can we talk about badminton, Giles? Can we talk about Southwest?
You may. Again, easy questions only.
How excited are you to finally have the Spartan Tough Mudder mashup in the UK?
Very excited by that, excited by the way that has been embraced. And we're operating from a single team in the UK. In the US, it's still 2 teams. So I think the mashup there becomes much more of a clash of cultures. I think over here, we should be able to make for a pretty seamless event weekend. And I'm also, honestly, we've been several years where we're one happy-ish family, right? As happy as any family can be, with Joe as dad. And that's an awkward. Just thinking about that makes me sad. But anyway, Uncle Joe. So there's still a very small crossover. It blows my mind. And hopefully through a couple of years of this kind of iteration, we might be able to convince a couple of Tough Mudder people that running Spartan doesn't actually make you a horrible human being. And likewise, the same for the Spartan folks, that it is possible to enjoy something that doesn't give you a medal.
We have seen a few people in the UK move over. I do know several people that have gone from TM to Spartan. I've got to admit, though, I haven't seen many people talk to me who are Spartan fans come over to Tough Mudder yet. And I think that's purely because in the UK, it's always been billed as Tough Mudder's fun, Spartan's a race. And you just don't get them racy people moving into Tough Mudder yet.
Yeah, everyone hates fun, right?
So, yeah.
It wants fun. I mean, it's either that or it's you two continuing to go on about like electricity and Everest. You might be putting them off, so cut that out.
We're being told off again.
This is how we can mash it up, actually. Could we have the spear throw next to EST, and if you hit it, you can avoid EST?
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? I love the spear throw. Primarily because I'm a lot better at it than Matt Brook is. And he's like a little gazelle all the time, whereas I'm some kind of like wounded animal limping after him as he scampers off. And so it's nice that, half an hour later when I've caught up, he's still at the spear throw and he's not got it in yet. And, I can play catch up. So, no, I thoroughly enjoy the spear throw. I like the idea that we're going to mix spear and beer on the TM side, primarily because Uncle Joe doesn't like beer. And so that's one of my great pleasures working for Spartan, is to wind him up. There's a lot we can do. And there are a couple of other obstacles, where I think we could take what we're trying to achieve from a Tough Mudder concept and use some of the Spartan build or some of the Spartan trust. I don't want to create mayonnaise here, so we need to be careful. But there's lots of really good stuff in both, and it's important that we recognize that.
I think one of the bones of contention, particularly in the early years of the group together, was that the Tough Mudder gauntlet was actually better than the Spartan rig. Yeah, because it still is.
It's still tougher than the Spartan rig. Yeah. But there is no tough in Spartan, and I don't mean this in any bad way, but every obstacle in Spartan is doable with a 50-50 chance on the spear throw. And the top end, that's where it is. Whereas in Tough Mudder, not every obstacle is doable. At first attempt, some of them do take 2 attempts.
Which is very much by design. In some ways, you think about the 100-meter. Nothing tough about running a 100-meter, right?
Yeah.
But, the world's best are lying on the floor broken afterwards. You can take something that in of itself is not, tough, although I certainly can't clear all the Spartan obstacles first shot. But in racing it really hard, you can make everything quite difficult.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Giles, thank you for joining us today. It's been a pleasure having you in the pub. And you are one of our favourite guests now. You are down officially as in up there with some of our best guests. And you're welcome to come in any time and join us for a chat.
Well, thank you very much. I do enjoy a pub environment, so it's been wonderful to be here. Until next time. What event are you two going to be at next? Spartan or Tough Mudder?
Well, we've got Sparta at the end of the month, so I'm hoping to go down to Pippinford, but to do some filming rather than some running.
I wouldn't go to Pippinford, Alan.
Yeah, we should. No. Someone should tell him.
Yes.
Well, it might be interesting filming. You've got lovely deer.
Yes, it's on my wall at the back here, and I can't see it because I'm in low
light.
Super,
but yes, there is a Spartan. There is a Spartan in Henley coming up.
On the 30th.
Super. I will see you at that one then.
Yes, that's my plan. And then we have got it's ETM for me. Yeah, and then ETM in June, purely because I'm away on holiday throughout the most of May.
And I need to check my calendar. I've never been so unprepared for a Tough Mudder season as I am this particular year. So I need to check my calendar and get some tickets booked, I think.
Yeah. You let us know which one you're coming to, and we'll make sure to flatten Everest out for you.
It would probably be Heaton Park. So it would probably Everest might sink in the mud bath that is Manchester. So I think I'll be fine.
Well, I will leave you with a thought to finish off your pint with. My dream start for Worlds is just to dig a massive big pit and to just put everybody in, and then to say go. And there's like a zombie apocalypse, right? They've all just got to get out to get started. Be wonderful. So maybe we can start a campaign and see if we can't get that to happen.
That would be amazing.
Alan's just staring at me like, what happened?
No, I'm wanting it. I'm thinking yes. I'm thinking the whole start line is one big pit. Yes.
It'd be really awkward if you got in early and you needed a pee. But we can have a lot of fun.
There's 4 corners.
Right, gentlemen. And on that, I will leave you. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
See you, Giles.
So, Alan, you know how Giles just asked us what events we got planned?
Which I could hardly remember because my mind's a blank, yes.
Exactly. But it's a great segue. He even set us up for a segue. What a great guest. He set us up for a great segue to chat about what's happening this week.
My 60 miler. That's all I've got in my head.
Exactly. Your 60 miler. That's exactly what's happening this week. But for other people, yeah, for other people, we've got Nuts.
Oh, the which we had Mark Dixon on with the UKOCR crowd talking about last week.
Exactly. So we've got the Nuts 3K, is it?
3K. It's for the FISO qualifier, isn't it? So the Elite Series. Who do you think? Have you got any tips for it? I think Jack Carpenter is going to surprise people.
I think that I really need to learn more of the elite athletes. Is Mark running?
Is Mark running? No. Mark's quit OCR now and he's race directing.
Okay. So Mark's not going to win.
No.
Well, if no one finishes the course, Mark wins. So yeah, maybe Mark makes it super hard and Mark wins.
Yeah. Was it Jason's is probably got a good chance, but yeah, I'd like to see Jack go up.
Ramunus. We'll go with Ramunus because we always. I just want him to win, so you have to pronounce his name next week.
I know it now. Ramunus Wickers. I can just say it just like that because I learnt it. Yes, our good friend and Wendy showed me and explained to me how to do it. So I've got off by heart now.
And what about the ladies' side? Seeing we've got on this conversation,
I think it's very open. I think Becky's running, so she's got a chance. And I want to see Louise Ferryman do well. She's coming back, so I'd like to see Louise do well. But there's quite a few people going out. Tamar's going. Yeah, I think Becky's probably got it in the bag, if I'm honest. She's running really well at the moment, trained really well over winter. If she's there and running, I think it's hers to lose.
Which you probably just cursed her. Sorry, Becky. It was a great season you've had up to now. But anyway, also this week we've got Wolf Run. which,
what's fun?
unfortunately, Alan, because you're doing your 60 mile, you can't win this one.
No, the only one I've ever won. Can't run it in this weekend.
And from the other side, so from fitness racing, we've got the 55 Games, who we spoke to, and we've also got Conquer Fitness, who we spoke to. So they're both this weekend. So if you're there, please drop us a message, let us know how the race go. And yeah, I think there might be a few other things, but they're the main things, Alan.
Well, you know why we had Giles on?
Yeah, and we had it. He gave us a lot of time. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, but I have got one question I did want to speak to him about, and I forgot all about it until now.
What was it?
Finsbury and the churning up of the mud and things like that. I wanted to ask him his opinion. Let's just talk about it instead.
Okay, we'll talk. Alan, was this one of them moments where you walk into a kitchen and you forget what you're meant to say?
It's exactly that. I never popped it on notes. So if I've not popped it on notes, it's not there in front of me.
It's my fault for talking about EST and Everest, isn't it?
It is. Because we went straight from Finsbury and how well it was to this. Bit of bad publicity.
Yeah, although I want to say it's one of them unfortunate things. Maybe I'm not biased. I'm sorry, I am biased. I almost said I'm unbiased. I'm completely biased here, and I am in an echo chamber. But I can't help but feel, Alan, that this is one of them social media things where people get really upset for a week or two and then it all blows over.
And so do I. And I've seen some of the councillors that have been talking, from down there, and they're all saying the same thing. They're all saying, so the Friends of Finsbury Park, they're very upset. It's churned up. If people don't know, you need to go on Twitter and Facebook and look, because the ground is churned up. They had lots and lots of runners running on wet solid ground, and it's churned up. However, it's only the top that's churned up, because the roots of the grass will still be intact. The mud's come through. The mud's risen to the top. So the grass will still grow. It needs rolling, and the grass will grow. And the councillors actually know this, because several of them have been online and said, yes, it is unfortunate. It's going to be here for several weeks or maybe a month, but it will be back to normal. So they know that it's going to be back to normal. It's just at the moment it looks a bit rough.
It does. And it also doesn't help that it's an election year.
Yeah. You know who they need down there? They need Kate Stilwell, because she grows some amazing grass. Yeah. She would put it right within seconds.
She absolutely would. And from what I hear, though, Alan, and I wasn't there, it doesn't sound like the Friends of Finsbury Park were very friendly. So I do feel for anyone who got themselves caught up. And you have it anywhere. There are people here, Alan. I remember we had in a park near me, we had a dog show once. And people were getting up in arms about, oh, you won't be able to park anywhere and all this. So you know what I did, Alan?
Park somewhere else?
No, I offered people could use my drive if you wanted to. It was, because I have a strong dislike to people taking umbrage. It wasn't like the people who were doing a tough mudder were there with plows, wrecking the ground and throwing salt on it.
Yeah, the people who've done it have not done this on a purpose, and the abuse that some of them received, and I have heard that some of the volunteers and obstacles and some of the runners got some serious abuse, and it's not good, is it?
No, it's not. And it's unfortunately just a sign of this time. When do we get so angry as people? It's just really...
COVID.
Yeah,
COVID kept us inside, made us angry.
It's just... I know it's a meme at this stage, but it's that thing where if you say that, oh, I prefer apples to oranges. Oh, so you hate oranges then. You hate oranges and you're phobic of oranges. And stop being angry at each other and just take a step back and just remember there's a park run that runs through this park as well. And I'm sure there'll be times when park runners churned it up too.
Yeah, I completely agree. This podcast, by the way, Ian, is not going out too early for our patrons. So you know how we try and get it out on a Thursday morning for our patrons? It can't go out to our patrons until Thursday evening after 5 p.m. Do you want to know why?
I'm going to say because you have got a hot date with Wendy and you won't be able to do any kind of editing until 5 p.m. Thursday.
That would be nice. But no, we have got some embargoed news that doesn't release until Thursday at 5 p.m. You want to know what it is?
Should I turn off my Instagram live first?
If you've got Instagram Live, you best turn it off right now. I'd be in so much trouble if that would happen, wouldn't it?
We really would be. But yeah, Alan, do you want to give the embargo news?
Yeah. So, nuclear racers and British obstacle sports are announcing their partnership on Thursday night. So, as people listen to this, they will already know about it. But yes, so I'm not going to read the whole press statement because they can read it, but I am going to read a little bit of James Parrish's because this is what goes off in a race director's mind. We've been monitoring the development of British obstacle sport since it was founded in 2019 with cautious optimism. This is because they probably got stung before. All right, so that bit's not in there, but that's what he's saying. A well-structured, professionally run national governing body can be beneficial for growing obstacle racing in the UK. And we have been very impressed at what an organisation that is entirely voluntary-led has been able to achieve. It only goes to show what an incredible community OCR has, and we're proud to offer our full support to British Obstacle Sports as part of this new partnership and look forward to helping the Federation to achieve its goals.
Wow, that is really good. And fair play to James for actually giving an explanation why he didn't instantly join, but also being open-minded.
Exactly. I think it's great. What people are going to get, so one of the partnership deals, which I think is quite good, that all nuclear VIP racers, so that's the pass holders that sign up for all the things, they will be automatically given British Obstacle Sports membership. So nuclear is going to pay for that for them out of the entry fee they're paying.
Oh, wow. Didn't you have an idea like that once?
Yeah.
Similar.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of which, if you've not gone on the Patreon yet, have a look.
Yes. yes. Yeah.
But no, I think that's awesome because people have probably decided to be VIPs already, and it's just adding value.
Exactly. It is. It's great that they're going to be partnered up. James Burton phoned me. Was over the moon when he phoned me and told me this. And sent me the press release. Big up to James and everyone at British Obstacle Sports and James Parrish and everyone at Nuclear Races as well. Great to see that OCR is getting back together in a lot of ways at this moment in time.
Fantastic. And now, Alan, James mentioned there about a professional run organisation. Yep. We just need a professional run podcast to go alongside it now.
I liked. I'm going to give Will Trim a shout out today because he sent me something which I'm going to actually read out today because I actually found this very interesting. He sent me a screenshot of a quote. So I'm sharing quotes from True Sapien in a minute because I love their quotes. He sent me one. Your first workout will be bad. Your first podcast will be bad. Your first speech will be bad. Your first video will be bad. Your first anything will be bad. But you can't make 100 without making your first. So put your ego aside and start. I wanted to change that, but you can't make 100 bad unless you're the UKOCR podcast.
Yeah, I think, Alan, we're on 300 unbeaten now, aren't we? We're still churning them out and still of interesting quality.
Yes, from time to time.
But saying that, we are having a bit of fun because we love everyone who listens. Yeah, and we don't think you'd listen if it was really that bad unless you think it's a car crash and you just want to find out what happens next, which might explain a bit, but no. So thank you all. Right, Alan, we're going to have to wrap it up very soon because we kind of kidnapped Giles, didn't we? So The Giles part. A couple final things. Katie Twigg messaged me because it was High Rock Spain this week and she was over in Malaga. So she's given me a race review and we love getting race reviews.
Love it.
So I'm going to read it out. So Malaga was really good on the whole. Great atmosphere despite all being in Spanish. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Start guide translated to English for those that needed it. I like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Because at Overlord, you never translate it into Spanish.
I'm going to choke on that. I'm going to learn Spanish now for next Overlord.
So, High Rocks Mulligan 1, Overlord 0. Anyway, let's move on. Run course was never busy apart from a brief interval when waves went off. Doubles was a bit busy naturally. Bit odd that they had the fast lane on the right of the line and passing lane to the left. I actually think I like that idea, but I can understand why people prefer the fast lane being on the left because racing line and all that. Katie didn't have many overtaking issues, but when Pro Men went off, it was scary. They're so fast and would just appear at your shoulder. That's very true. There was virus clothing there, plenty of bilingual volunteers. We found that when we went to DECA, lots of bilingual volunteers. Spectating was good, could get a good view of all stations with standing platform for wall balls. Slight negatives, nowhere near as organised as UK events. Free for all at the crossing, no bag drop, and only one set of toilets accessible. And the taxi was hard to get to after. I'll be honest, all of these things I don't think are isolated to High Rocks. We felt a lot of that in DECA as well in Spain. I think it's just different culture in that they're a bit more relaxed.
Yeah, a bit of a Spanish atmosphere, a bit of siesta time.
Yes, exactly. But she absolutely loved it. So if you fancy a High Rocks in Spain or in Italy, by the way, use that code UKHXR-10 to the end of April to get... I don't even know how much that gives us off. I'm guessing 10%, but I've no clue. You just said it was a discount code.
It's been random for different people, I bet.
It might add money on. I have no clue. But yeah, if you fancy a foreign High Rock, Spain is very well recommended. So that's almost the fitness racing news for this week, Alan. I will say that those results from this past weekend, go and have a look at our Instagram at uk.hxr. We're up there. The other thing, Alan, some DECA news. DECA Mile Clitheroe has opened a complete new lane for the DECA Mile at the end of May. So they've got more tickets available. 50 quid, you get a T-shirt, you get a medal, you get a good time. So go and have a look there. And there's a new DECA gym. And guess where it is, Alan?
I'm going to say London because everything happens in London.
No, it's kind of northern again. It's in Crewe.
Oh, that's not too far from you, is it?
It's not a million miles, but it's very close to our good friend Will. Yeah, about an hour. Yeah. So, yeah, a new DECA gym in Crewe. No other announcement other than they're affiliated now, but that makes, I want to say, 4 in the UK in the current system and 1 in the legacy system. Do you remember that place which we can't pronounce? Cirencester. Cirencester, yeah. They are a DECA affiliate, but I think it's under the old system, so they've not yet come on to the new system. I think the difference is Cirencester don't see themselves putting on events, and that's part of the new system. So it is what it is. Alan, do you have any news?
I do. I have seen that the Scottish Assault Course in Edinburgh has got an exciting announcement. They are having a race. So this race is on the 17th of June, 2023. Okay. And the Udares winner, Grant Flynn, is going to be there. Yeah. He says it's not for the faint-hearted. It's going to kick off with a grueling 1-hour boot camp led by Grant, designed to push you to your limits and test your physical and mental strength. And once you've done the boot camp, you'll tackle a 5K assault course with 35 obstacles, including walls, rope swings, tunnels, plenty of mud. It's £50 a person. Yeah. Includes a special SAC Udares Wins t-shirt, and it's only available for 100 people. So get on quickly. I've shared it on our Facebook page. So check out Wednesday evening and you will see it on there.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to, we're seeing this more and more, aren't we? That people with permanent type obstacle courses are putting it on events.
I think it could be the way forward. I think smaller, compact events for some of these. You know, when you go to pubs, you know what pubs at the minute, there's this old tap thing coming up where there's small shops that are turning over, but that actually seem to always be busy. I can see this happening a little bit in the event industry. So we actually see smaller races, limited numbers, but happening more often, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of what's happening with like the DECA Fit model, isn't it? That their primary, they do have the big stadium events. in the US and in Spain, but their primary way of having competitions is gyms hosting them, and you get 100 or so people. They all have a great time, and it's got that community feel, which, Alan, reminds me of the old OCRs.
Definitely, yeah. I loved the OCRs when you used to get 300 to 500 people, and you knew 60 and 70% of them because they were the same people going to the same ones every week in, week out, and wherever they were in the country, you would still see them. I got friends down in London that travelled all the way up to everyone up here, and I travelled all the way down there. And I don't see as many now because they've now moved on to other running things, which a lot of people do. I think we need to get that back though. That ethos we talked about of everyone helping each other and being friendly and that. And you do see it at the UKOCR series. I saw it at Total Warrior last year after the race, when everyone who went in the UKOCR series was set around the same table.
Yeah, I have seen that as well. And that is one thing about OCR that is probably different to any running, and it's different to fitness racing to some degree, is that willingness to hang around after the event.
Yeah.
And weather permitting, of course. If it's raining, sorry guys, you're on your own.
Ian, I think we're out of notes.
We're definitely out of time, but can we just say thank you once again to Giles for popping in the pub. Thank you for being so generous with your time. I think we prepared notes for about 10 minutes worth.
Yeah, we strung it out quite well.
That's true. That's very well. You kept thinking great ideas, so yeah, we did it.
Yes, we did. And thank you to Will for putting us in touch.
Very much so. We couldn't have done it without Mr. Ambassador Will. So to say thank you to Will if you enjoy this interview. Use Leonsky's brand ambassador code, because I'm sure he would appreciate you using that code.
We'll pop it in notes, eh?
We will indeed. So, Alan, do you want to say what's on your podcast this week?
Yes, it's Who's Hot. Who's Hot's back.
Perfect.
With the Spartan preview.
Haven't we just have a Who's Hot?
Yeah, we've got 2 in a row.
2 Who's Hot in a row. Perfect. Fantastic. Right, on mine, it's going to be London preview for High Rocks. For once, I know exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be me with some guests, or if the guests all cancel, it's going to be me and maybe Alan.
I like that. And you got a special coming out as well this weekend.
We do. We have this past Wednesday we had an Italian special, and we're having an Aussie special, Alan. We're globetrotting. We're absolutely globetrotting.
Globetrotting.
So on that, Alan, without further ado, goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me, everyone. You all take care. I love you all. See you later. Bye.